Hello everybody, and welcome to ZookaMan Streaming. We're getting you and your replays to be casted for my entertainment, and hopefully to help you improve a little bit as well. I'm your host, ZookaMan, and we're going to be going into a ZVZ. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our players. In the top 4 o'clock-ish position? No, that's more like 1 or 2 o'clock, somewhere in between there. We have BakerStarcraft spawning in as the red Zerg player, and his opponent on the opposite side of the map we see LLawliet from the clan IQG. No idea what that stands for, but that is what's going to be happening. So, this is kind of a strange map. I know I have not gotten to cast any replays since the new map pool has come out. So, in case there are people out there who haven't yet, I'd like to take this opportunity to kind of go and look kind of at the map real quick while we're still in the early game here. So it looks like we have a pretty easy to secure natural expansion with a little bit of drop potential in the back of the main, or in the back of the mineral line. Island base up here. We have a 4th base over here and a 5th base over here. Looks like this is probably going to be a horizontal expansion map, so we're probably going to see this way and that way from either player going on either side. Maybe even going for a Zerg player could be going forward. There's not really very many forward maps. Doesn't look like there's any gold bases on the map either. So it doesn't really look like there's really anything to note besides the fact that that natural is pretty wide open to drops, and any sort of air mutalist play along with that. And pretty long distance here between the bases as well, which is going to discourage a little bit of earlier, like, Zerg run-bys and stuff along those lines. So this map looks pretty solid. Looks pretty interesting to do. I'd love to see how it's going to end up working on this matchup. So, but going into the matchup itself, BakerStarcraft and our blue Zerg player, because we can go for a early expansion, as opposed to going for the pools early, are going to be following up with the pools and going to be getting the gas from LLawliet's side of the field. I believe that BakerStarcraft has both gases coming down in his main base. His spawning pool is going to come up a little bit later, however, which means he should be fine against anything as long as he has enough turns that he would be able to deal with anything but a large amount of Zerglings, and at that point he should have units out to help defend against it. So we're going to see LLawliet's expansion come up a little bit sooner, the spawning pool coming a little sooner in the back of the main base as well, which is kind of telling me that LLawliet knows a little bit more about his timings and what he's doing there here. However, he is going to get himself supply blocked for a moment there, so maybe not exactly as well as we would hope. 4 Zerglings coming out from him to go aggressive and kind of scout out a little bit. Isn't really going to be able to do a lot of damage. Might get a few drones on the natural because, well, I guess there's not really anything but Queen's going to come up for the defense here, so they might be able to do enough damage to kill a couple of drones. But the more important thing is that they are going to be able to go out and scout a little bit. BakerStarcraft is just going to be going up on his double Queen production. LLawliet does have his finishing up back home. Does have a drone. Oh no, Overlord going to get killed by the Queen up in the main base. Okay, that's gonna barely survive. Yep, it survived with about quarter health left there. So both players are going to be showing they're a little bit wet behind the ears here. We do have a little bit of problems with the supply so far, but I guess I've kind of been getting into the habit of casting a lot of higher level games, in especially Diamond, and I've gotten a few in Masters lately, so I've been kind of spoiled with high level games. Not like these players are bad, but they're going to be on the bronze to silver level play, if I remember correctly, for the loading screen. So we're seeing BakerStarcraft coming out for Burrow back home. I kind of disagree with that. I'd love to see him put the minerals into droning up a little bit more, because I believe Burrow's 100, I believe, isn't it? I don't remember exactly. I believe he's 100, but quote me if I'm wrong. Don't quote me if I'm wrong. We do have Premium Guys Caprice coming up for our Blue Zerg player, which is a little bit strange to see so early on. We've already seen BakerStarcraft go up on a triple evolution chamber wall off here, It still needs probably a queen up there just to keep that from being any sort of problem. I would even agree with getting a spine crawler of 2 over here as well to kind of take care of that. I'd love actually to see these spine crawlers to go up over here as opposed to going up right here. And Baker StarCraft going up on three spine crawlers. That's kind of an odd decision. Playing super defensive here. Has he scouted anything coming up from his opponent? No, he hasn't really scouted anything that would show him that he has to worry about any sort of early aggression. However, LLawliet is going to be getting up his Roach Warren. That is going to be finishing up now. We'd love to see his layer finished up, and we'd love to see a third base coming up as well for him, and we're going to be seeing exactly that. Circles are out on the map, and it looks like he's going to be getting a sizable amount of those. Might be deciding to move out a little bit here. Baker StarCraft a little bit low on the wall off. Might have it with the Zerglings he has there, but needs to be a little bit careful there. Something to point out here, our Red Terror or Red Zerg player is a little bit low on the harvester count. Natural expansion isn't really fully saturated to the best of its abilities, and to that point, LLawliet actually going to be doing pretty good on his saturation. So, really doesn't need to work on getting his natural saturated here, because if he does not have the production for the drones, he's not going to have the production later on when he's trying to do other things. War's Wogan coming down for him as well. Does have a macro hatchery coming up in the main base. Could use to even... Oh no, that's Baker StarCraft. Baker StarCraft is doing pretty good on his money. Does need to find a way to get the gas down a little bit. However, LLawliet, love to see him drop down a macro hatch as he's starting to get up a little bit high on his mineral counts, and it's usually a good idea, just in general, to have the extra hatchery to be able to get a little bit of more production to set up on the field. LLawliet is going to be starting his Evo Chamber wall off back home. He's going to be going up onto Roach Ling with a heavy metal Ling. Lots of Lings are out on the map. I'd love to see LLawliet go out across the map and try to get a little bit of damage done. True, we do have the spine crawlers up from Baker StarCraft right now. However, our Zerg player hasn't really scouted that yet, so I'd really like to see him move out and kind of scout that out, see what his opponent's doing. Oh, yeah, wait, no, he did scout that all off was going on. So, might be that's why he's not moving out, but he has quite a few units here coming out for not really any reason at all. Even going to lose Zergling here to the spine crawler. He's going to be gearing up for a Roach Ling attack. I like that kind of decision, but he doesn't even remember to keep up on his drone production to the third base. Make sure to get his queen up. And if he's really going to be wanting to commit to an attack here, I'd love to see him move out sooner rather than later. Isn't even getting a Bangling Nest here to kind of go for Bangling Bust in the front, which is a good decision against what we see from Baker StarCraft. However, our Red Zerg player does have +1 on his units. +1 not even finished up yet for LLawliet, about 3/4 of the way done. So he kind of does need to wait for that to finish up to be able to do this push effectively. He's going to be going up onto third base saturation. Just have a queen coming up. Needs to put some more on there. He's going to be getting his infestation, but probably going to coming up into hive. That would be my best guess. As either there's a lot of things you could be doing this. I would like to see hive into 3/3 tech, and possibly even into Ultralisk. I'd say get some Hydras into this army and go Roach Hydra Ultralisk. Similarly, you could do Corruptors, or even to that matter Vipers, even though they're not necessarily the most standard thing. Corruptors really going to be using for a lot of air units, so I probably wouldn't agree with that. Vipers might be a good addition into this army. We're going to be seeing some Banglings rolling out across the map, and by not rolling across the map, I mean just crawling, because they don't have their upgrade. Going straight for that Evolution Chamber. Is going to be finishing it off. Going to be almost killing another one. And now the units are going to be streaming out across the map. Baker StarCraft rebuilding the Evolution Chamber. The other one's perfectly fine here, but LLawliet needs to kind of move out here if he wants to take the damage here. And he has quite a few Zerglings here. He's going to be pushing in here. Banglings are on the map for Baker StarCraft, so he should be able to deal with those Banglings or Zerglings just fine. Roaches are going to be pushing forward. However, the Spine Crawlers are on the side of Baker StarCraft, and LLawliet, knowing that he is not going to be able to win this engagement, decides he's going to fall back here a little bit. Now, from LLawliet's side of the field, I do like that he's starting to get a saturation on his third base. Love to see a couple more drones go out on that. Would love to see a fourth base come down from him as well. Also, he does have the infestation pit out on the field, which means we can see Hive Tech at any point. Wait, does he? Where is it? Oh. Apparently not. Oh, it was Baker StarCraft, excuse me. Baker StarCraft can go up on a Hive Tech then. Wow, I thought... Jeez, my mistake, folks. I thought that was a LLawliet. So yeah, when we're seeing the infestation pit up for Baker StarCraft, I'd love to see him go up onto his Tier 3 tech. And similarly, LLawliet, I'd like to see him add on additional tech to this army, start going for his infestation pit, go up into his Hive Tech. I wouldn't be opposed to either one of these players grabbing an additional base at this point. Baker StarCraft, especially as he's sitting on 2 base mining compared to his opponent's 3 base mining. 64 to 50 harvesters, a little bit oversaturated as natural expansion. Really doesn't need to get the third base started. Because quite a few drones here are just kind of not mining, which is always a bad thing to have to worry about. Zerg players are going to be going up on centrifugal hooks. Baker StarCraft is going to be able to. We do have 2-2 coming up from our blue Zerg player, and we have 1-2 coming up from our red Zerg player. I don't know why I keep wanting to say red Terran. Zergos are going up into this natural expansion or third base or whatever the heck it is, and not really a whole lot of drones here. Just pulled off some for gas. It's going to get the queen though, which is going to make a big deal here. And then just going to be running away from the Roach Hydra coming to kill them all. Does seem to really saturate this third base here, and he'll be in a pretty decent position. Proxy third base coming up from, or not proxy third base, Ninja third base coming up from Baker StarCraft back home, which is going to be kind of perfection with the Clouding Constitutions or the Roach Speed, as well as the Pathogen Lands coming up for the Infestors, which shows that we are seeing Infestors coming out on the map. Personally, I wouldn't necessarily agree with them right now, but we're going to have to hold that thought here because we do see LLawliet moving out with the engagement here. Infestors are on the map, but their pathogen gland has not been finished up, so they're not going to be able to do their fungal growth very well. We're going to see a couple fungal growths coming out in the army, going to be getting a little bit of damage done, especially on those Hydralisks, but not really going to be able to do a lot of damage here. He's going to snipe most of the Hydralisks. However, there's quite a few roaches here. He might be able to just take this army on. LLawliet is probably not going to be able to re-macro his forces here. He's going to decide to keep pushing forward, which I do agree with. I would like to see him add on additional Hydros in his army, start remaxing his army back up again, and then push back in a little bit. From him, I'd like to see also additional drones being made. Here comes an engagement here. He's going to be getting us around on the Roaches and the Hydros, which means that Baker StarCraft will be in a superior position here. Pretty much going to be able to destroy the rest of the Zerg's army there. LLawliet going to have a few units streaming out across the map, and by those I mean, of course, an Overlord farm just sitting in the middle of the map, ready to be killed by any sort of anti-air that the Red Terran, why don't you say return? Red Zerg player is going to be doing. We are seeing both players coming up on an additional 2 bases, but they have to remember that they need to saturate these back up again. Looking a little bit short down here at third. Fourth base is a little bit undersaturated as well, and not really putting much drones into there. Similarly, Baker StarCraft is going to be on 2 additional bases, but neither one of them are really going to be able to be mined out of, so they're essentially just an extra macro hatch. Speaking of macro hatches, Baker StarCraft is on a lot of minerals. I'd love to see him start to try to spend that, maybe move into like a push here and try to spend his minerals a little bit better. LLawliet doing exactly that here, pushing out with his units every so often, just kind of keep his money down a little bit. Hive Tech going to be coming up from role players right now is going to come up first from LLawliet, which means that Tier 3 is going to come up for his upgrades as well as the ability to go up into Greater Spire as well as the Ultralisk Cavern. Personally, I would like to see the Ultralisk Cavern come out. I would also like to see the bases also be taken over here and really being saturated. It's going to get up to 10 workers up here. Does need to put another round of drones down here fairly shortly would be a good idea. Lots of links coming up from Baker StarCraft, moving out towards this third base. There are really a lot here to defend against this, so not going to be able to do a whole lot. He's going to maybe snipe the base. There is quite a few Zerglings here. At the very least, he's going to be able to get the queens, and those queens are going to die really, really fast, and the drones will be following suit. While they can pretty much letting the expansion fall, and that's really what's going to happen. He's going to be pulling back his units here, but the base isn't going to go down without a single hitch. BakerSC going to be going into a Roach Infestor build, which is kind of weird. I'd like to see Hydralisk added on if he's wanting to go for these Infestors. And once again, really doesn't need to start saturating his bases here. Link's are going to be coming up to the 4th base here and going to be getting a little bit of damage done. But LLawliet really doesn't have a whole lot of drones over here. It does have about 8 on the mineral line. Regardless, it's going to be another queen, another hatchery that's going to be going down for our blue Terran player, or blue Zerg player. Ugh. Words are so hard. BakerSC going to be losing his base, going to be going up onto Viper production, which I honestly don't agree with the number of Zerglings that are out on the map. Yeah, we're missing the Infestors and Roach composition coming up for his opponent if he's able to snipe away a couple of Infestors. More power to him, but I don't... I guess Blinding Cloud is pretty good as well, so I take that back. I think Vipers could be a very good addition onto this army. Viper is going to be taken out here. Yikes. And suddenly, LLawliet going to be saying, nope, I don't like your Zergling pressure. He's going to be going for a base of his own. LLawliet going to be caught off a little bit here. Going to be having quite a few units here caught in the choke. Infestors are going to be putting up the fun growth. So those really aren't going to be able to survive. This whole army probably isn't probably going to be able to survive, but they are going to be sniping 2 bases. It's kind of even the trade again. Would love to see LLawliet drop down an additional couple of bases back where they were once again. Start macroing out a few more units. Put the pressure on his opponent. I'd love to see him go into Infestors or even go up onto Mutatech because his gas is pretty large right now. And BakerSC does need to go up onto something to keep his minerals down. But looks like LLawliet is going to be retreating back home to the Zergling pressure back over that old 3rd base. 3-3 coming up from both of our players at this point. Also using Zerg Carapace level 2 coming up a little bit behind the other 2 upgrades. But not too much of a deal. Taking a real quick glance over at the income tab, we have 42 to 38 in favor of our Zerg player of the red color, which is going to help him a little bit here. However, he's going to get mined out into his natural expansion very fast here. Main base already very fastly approaching mining out. Love to see him take the 3rd base again, and that is exactly what we're going to be seeing from him. Enduring Looks are going to be coming out on the field for BakerSC at this point, which this is something that I have a problem with for all races at any point. And yes, Zerg can do this a lot better than other races, but I don't like when players start doing this. Like right now, we have a lot of tech in BakerSC side of the field. Infestors and Vipers and Roaches, as well as these Stormhosts that will be coming up fairly shortly here, which means we're going to have 4 tech paths, which is going to suck up his gas very, very quickly. And honestly, it's much better to stick to 1 tech path than it is to use all of the tech paths. It's just much better for your economy and just for your composition in general. We're going to be seeing the Zerglings darting around a little bit, trying to get a little bit of damage done here. Enduring Locusts are hitting the field in a little bit here, so our Stormhorse will be following shortly after, I'd have to assume. 3-3 finishing up right now. Adrenal Gland's going to be added on as well from our red player, and red player is going to skirt around with the units that he has. Quite a few Zerglings in this army, but I understand how that is because he had quite a bit of minerals banked up here. Here comes the engagement coming up between our two players, and LLawliet is going to be going straight into the army of BakerSC. We're going to be going for quite a good couple of contamination zones. No, not contamination zones. I completely forgot what the name was called. Anyways, we're going to get these surround from BakerSC. We're going to be pretty much annihilating the rest of LLawliet's army, and going to be moving out across the map to get a little bit of damage done. There goes LLawliet's GG. So, what can I say to these players to, what can we learn from this game? First off, both players struggled a little bit with their gas, with spending their gas. Both players did pretty well, especially towards the later game, with dealing with their minerals and stuff like that. However, their gas production was fairly large. So what I would suggest for that, there are a few things that you can do in order to get this gas down. One, you can start putting out a Spire and start going into meatless tech. Two, you can start using Infestors and or Vipers. We combine those two together because they are really pretty good when used in combination. Three, you can get your Hive a little bit earlier and start going up into Ultralisks. And four, if you really want to, you can go into Swarm Hosts. And five, this is kind of a 4A, but it could also be considered 5 as well. Swarm Hosts are actually pretty heavy on gas, so I suggest doing one of those things to try to get your gas bank a little bit down. Your minerals were pretty good. Did have a little bit of problems in the mid-game, but every so often people do have that. So looking over real quick at the upgrades, we did have pretty good upgrades off of both players, but this is kind of telling the story here, guys. Roach Speed, Burrow, Intruding Lens, and just in general, all the upgrades that Baker StarCraft has as opposed to his opponent, who really only has the Metabolic Boost, Pre-Numerized Carapace, which he didn't really do much with, and the 2-2 against his 3-3 opponent with the upgrades on his units. So definitely something to be taken out of this is to get his upgrades a little bit on his units, which will help a little bit on the gas problem as well. One last thing here, guys, before I let you guys off. Both of these players did go for expansions fairly well. One thing I will suggest for them, and I did mention it earlier on in the cast, is when you get your expansion up, this is a problem that I see every so often for players, and I know that I have done it a few times in the past, as I'm not the best player in the world. But what's something you want to really avoid, especially in the mid-game, is empty hatcheries. Or hatcheries that are very under or oversaturated. As we saw from Baker StarCraft, his natural expansion for most of the game was pretty oversaturated. I believe it had 29 workers on it for most of the game. So that's not really necessarily optimal. Usually you want 16 on minerals, 3 on each gas. Pretty simple, easy way to do it. But you always want to remember to keep those drones on your mineral line, and that's really something you need to have to learn so that your economy is good. So that you're able to do stuff like put out quite a few Zerglings to kind of counterattack your opponent or snipe a base or something like that. Alright folks, that's all I'm going to point out for this replay. So, as always, if you enjoyed the content, please like, comment, subscribe, share as you see fit. Also, if you're also interested in some of my casts, I do a live stream on the weekends, which is a link to that is going to be in the description below. If you have anything at all, any feedback, anything you guys would like to say, go ahead and put it in the comments below. And that along with feedback or anything else, you guys know how this works by now. So, this is ZookaMan, and we'll see ya on the next cast.